And welcome back here at CPAC Live. Mike Crispi with Right Side Broadcasting with a special guest, Madison Cawthorn, the youngest member ever elected to the United States House of Representatives. Madison, how you doing? How's CPAC going for you so far?
Crispi's going well. You know, I'll tell you, we're doing a fantastic job here with the conservative movement. I think people are really fired up, and they realize what's at stake. They realize that, you know, we are trying to give all power to the state. That's what they want. They'll say whatever they have to do it. And so that's why I think you see so many people turning up for Trump events or turning up for CPAC events. It's because we're fired up.
Yeah, they're fired up. People are fired up, and they want to take this country back. They want to take liberal states back. Talk a little more about that. You know, you've been in Congress now for a couple of years. Talk about the experience you've had over the last really your first term. You know, you're coming into the second term. Talk about your experience in Congress and what you've seen with government, big government overreach, both in North Carolina and at the federal level.
Absolutely. So, you know, talking about big government overreach, it's really, this is what they do. They're just trying to set precedent every single day. Because they are trying to get to the point where they can take all of our rights away, all our liberties away, and do whatever they want because they believe it's their right and they believe that they need to come hold the hands of, you know, snotty-nosed normal Americans. But what I have to tell them is that, you know, we need less white-collar D.C. lawyers in Congress. We need more people that wear work boots out in the normal America making public policy.
Love that. Love that. So what's your speech? You're speaking at CPAC later today. Tell us about your message, your main message here for the base. I mean, these people are fired up, as you mentioned. These people coming out to CPAC are the diehards. They want to see this country back. They love this country. They love you and everything you've done. So what's your main message to them today?
Main message, it's really going to be more of an educational. You know, there's going to be a lot of rah speeches, which I love giving. I love getting people fired up.
You do them as well as anybody.
Well, you normally need to get people fired up, but the people here at CPAC, they don't need that. They just need the ammunition to be able to go out and fight. And so wanting to give them the actual talking points and what they can actually say to realize that we have all the right arguments on our side. And so, you know, this is the reason why the Democrats have to always outspend us in races.
Yeah.
It's because they have to try and convince people of ideologies that go contrary to our common sense.
Yeah, good. Contrary to common sense. So talk about just the number one thing for our viewers at home, Right Side Broadcasting, number one thing, common sense that you can use to push back against liberals in your communities. Because I always say, and you know this from running, and we both know North Carolina, it all starts at the local level. They're in their communities. So what type of ammunition, what would be the number one, number two talking points that you would encourage them to use at home to take back their cities?
Biggest one is I would encourage people, don't look at the person, look at the policies. You know, there's a lot of people who are, you know, that might, you know, Barack Obama, an incredible speaker, made you feel like you wanted to go grab a beer with the guy. It's fantastic. But then you look at his policies, like you're a communist.
There you go.
You're a globalist. You want to just have all power concentrated into the top 1% of the 1% of the 1% and take all rights away from everybody else. And so don't look at the person, look at the policies, because right now what's at stake is the future for the next generation. And stop sending cookie-cutter politicians to Washington, D.C. that have pleated pants and tassel loafers. Send a freaking warrior.
Send a warrior like Madison Cawthorn. You look terrific, by the way.
Well,
so
thanks,
I want to ask you, the youngest member of Congress ever. Talk a little bit about that. You know, people who are at home around the country tuning in. Talk a little about your journey into Congress. How was the first term? Is there anything that you didn't expect when you came in? And what's been kind of the key takeaways from doing this? Because what you've done is really historic to a lot of young conservatives out there like myself, like so many watching. Talk a little bit about that.
Man, you know, I'm shaking my head because there's just so many things that were shocking to me of how Washington does business. But for one, to people like our age, you know, it's really want to be an encouragement when you go out and you are trying to get elected. Maybe you want to go into office, you're in your primary, and you're at those local GOPs, and you know it's the establishment crowd, and they tell you, hey, you know, you've got all the right zeal, you got all the right values, but you know you need to wait in line.
That's it. Wait your turn. That's what they say.
Literally, just look around the room and say, who the hell am I in line behind? Because whoever's come before me has left us $28 trillion in debt. We have a porous southern border. We have allowed Black Lives Matter and Antifa to terrorize our entire country. We're being made a mockery of on the world stage. The people who have come before me have made a mockery of the Republican Party. And right now we need conservatives to stand up and be able to fight.
They have made a mockery of the Republican Party, but people like you and others are taking it back. So speaking of taking it back, talk to me about the midterms. How do you feel it's going to play in the midterms? What are
Domination.
What do you think the strategy is there? How do you think that's looking?
So the biggest thing is we cannot sit back on our laurels and say, oh, well, you know, historically we normally gain 32 seats whenever one party's president is elected, the other party gains 32 seats in the midterms. That's what normally we always believe. But we don't need to win 32 seats. We need a supermajority. I want 60 seats. And so people need to get very, very fired up, and they need to get out and get involved. Even if you are in a district where you think, oh, this has been Democrat the entire time. 2020, if it taught us one thing, it taught us that authoritarianism is on the rise, that there are tyrants who are wanting to take away our rights, to not allow us to be able to congregate in churches, to not be able to own firearms.
It's crazy.
You've heard about this. Is the thing that drives me the craziest and mind-boggling to me. We just had a president threaten the American people with F-15. Said you would need F-15s and nukes to take me on.
Outrageous. 15 days to slow the spread, right, Madison?
Exactly.
That's how it started.
Exactly. And now they're starting to talk about going door to door to be able to take vaccines to the people. Think about the mechanisms they would have to build to be able to actually execute that massive of a thing. And then think about what those mechanisms could be used for. They could then go door to door, take your guns. They can go door to door, take your Bibles.
Yeah.
And so it's serious. And brother, I've got to get backstage, but
I
man,
absolutely
I
appreciate it.
look forward to being on your show another time
Yes,
in New York.
Madison Cawthorn, everybody, a superstar, rising star in Congress, can do very big things. Madison, really appreciate you joining us today on RSBN, and we'll talk to you soon,
It's an honor,
man.
brother. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was awesome.